everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Pete Friesen Society. My guest today is an autistic occupational therapist. We're going to talk entrepreneur and the host of Adulting with Autism. Please welcome the globally ranked podcast host, the one, the only April Radford. How you doing, April?
I am awesome. Thank you for having me on your podcast, Pete.
Most notable, April has also had our good friend Sam Mitchell host Autism Rocks and Rolls, and the one, the only Dr. Fujane as well. So that's even great. So, April, why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself?
So, I am a 49 autistic occupational therapist, and I didn't discover I was autistic until I went on this podcasting journey. So, there's that. I'm late diagnosed. Um, my entire family, except for my sister, is autistic. Found out my nephew is an Audi, so he's autistic and ADHD. So, other than that, I run this podcast and I still work full time as an occupational therapist. Is pediatrics my field? Absolutely not. I like old people, and my I love dementia and Alzheimer's patients, and of
So,
course my autistic people.
can I ask why that is? You like the older crowd? Is it just is you're so interested by it alone? Just like how it
Um,
progresses?
it was because of my own grandmothers. I had a grandmother live with Parkinson's on her own till she was 97, and my other grandmother lived on her own until she was 88. And just because they were still very fiercely independent, and I feel like all the elderly can be fiercely independent. Everybody has this mindset of, oh, the elderly can't do for themselves. And I'm like, I don't understand why y'all think that, because my grandmothers lived in their own homes. One of them lived out in the middle of nowhere in a house her husband built, and they were sharecroppers. So I just love the elderly, and I love being with them. And once they hit a certain age, their filters go away. And it's a whole new world when you go into long term care and they just spew it like it is. And I'm like, oh, the filters come off. It's
So,
fun.
so first off, that's great. I'm so excited for you. April's podcast has over 2 million downloads. Which is just an accomplishment in itself. Some other people, a couple other people that have like those massive amount of numbers, and you're still working though, which is so interesting too, because people are like, well, if you do all those podcasting, how are you still working? I'm like, she's got it down for the system. That's a boss woman right there. That's what that is.
It it's a hustle. That
It
first
is.
year it's a hustle, and if you keep doing it that way, you'll burn out. But I was lucky enough to have time in between and the support of my fiance and my kids support, saying, "Mom, keep doing it." And I kept doing it, and my wonderful guests kept me going, because they're like, "You're doing something that there's not out there. There's not enough support for autistic young adults, and they need that voice." And the more I got into it, there's not enough for our ADHD young adults or the Audis. And I love calling them Audis. It reminds me of the cars. So
I
those
love
of
it.
you
Yeah.
that are Audis, compare yourselves to cars. Um, there's just not enough
High
voicing
model
out there.
cars, even that, but still.
Right, high model cars. You're not just the Volkswagen. You're the high esteem
So,
car.
April, let me ask you a question though. Why do you feel people look down on people with autism? Is it because they don't know enough? I'm probably honestly hitting it right on the head. It's probably because they don't know enough about it. They just automatically assume because they're disabled they can't do anything. Like, the same thing, the stigma about the older people, that they can't do anything for themselves.
I think a lot of it is everybody loves kids, and everybody focuses so much on kids, they forget that they grow up and become adults. And I don't know if it's because in everybody else's head, we give them all the support when they're kids, and they think, okay, they're 18, they're good to go. And I'm like, that's not how this works, people. That's not how any of this works. They still need support when they are
Right.
transitioning into adulthood. I'm like, if the neurotypical brain does not fully form until 25 into maturity. What do you think is going to happen to the neurodivergent brain that's behind their
Yeah.
neurotypical peers?
No, I agree. I
It took me
agree.
to,
I think you
I
make all great
mean,
points.
so case in point, I failed college 5 times. It was 30 before I pulled the shit together, before I hit college again and did it straight through 6 years. So if that tells you anything, and that was back before, I was born in 76. I didn't speak until I was 2.5. My parents had no idea what was going on. I had speech. I had no idea why I had speech. I thought that was fun. So, no idea until, you connect the dots. And so here we are. But now with my own kid,
You
I
know,
watched him fall.
yeah. You know what? You know, too, with the people with autism, a lot of them you meet, though, I think a lot of people underestimate them, but I think a lot of those guys are smarter than most people realize. Like they are very incredible people. Once you get to meet them, and there's a young gentleman I met. He was when he was 11. This kid could tell you every capital in the world. You could point at a globe, and this young man can name it all off. He would just list them off, and it was just so impressive. I was just like, wow. Wow. And it's like, then you hear people like saying, oh, well, because we work with some of these neurodivergent that works with us where we're at now. And it's like, you have to remember when you're talking to these people, you can't approach it the same way. They don't process the things the same way. So like with him, it's like, I asked him like, hey, listen, what's the best way I can do something for you to help you that way you can succeed. And he was real helpful helping me because he was teaching me some things. And I was like, all right, man, that works. Whatever works best for you, let me know so we can make this as smooth as make this seamless as possible. That way you don't feel like, everybody's treating you differently. Because I want you to feel like a normal person here. I don't want anybody to make you feel different, things like that, and all this kind of stuff like that too. And I feel like, when it comes to that, a lot of people, they're quick to judge. I mean, well, okay, and honestly, as a society, we are quick to judge. If we don't know, we just start
Mhm.
making fun of people, or we'll start saying things about them, and we don't realize that, there's a lot more things going on than we tend to know.
And the other thing is, people tend to stereotype, and there's shows out there like The Good
Hmm.
Doctor or The Big Bang Theory. And I'm like, that's not high functioning autism for a lot of people. I'm like, I'm autistic. And people are like, well, I can't tell you're autistic. I'm like, what's that look like? And I'm
Exactly.
waiting
That's a
for their
good question,
answer.
though. What does it look like?
And I'm like, it's
Hey,
not going to
listen, man.
show.
It's like,
Right. I'm like, I'll wait. And then they get embarrassed.
well, because people go based on TV. Remember now, like you made a good
Mhm.
point. I think you touched on it. Like these different shows, they're just shows. Like people take it and think it's real, like movies. Like a lot of those movies about different mental health disorders. So I mean, let's take a Beautiful Mind. I think it was the best one so far I've seen that just kind of like dictates it a little bit. But not everybody with schizophrenia just does that. And I think that's the crazy thing is that everybody hears these things and they just automatically assume what they already know. Oh well, they're gonna they're crazy. Not really. There's a couple people I've had that have schizophrenia that don't do these things that you see everybody's doing.
Right.
I think that's a great point though, is that it's not what it looks like always. It's great you can read a book all day, but when someone is physically in front of you, everybody's symptoms are different. And I think that's great when I run into different individuals with these different things. I'd like to ask them like, hey, listen, what is it like for you? Because I'm always curious to know how it is that what presents for them, because you're always fascinated, and to prove your point even more is just like, not everybody's the same. Like, listen, we're not cookie cutters here, man. It's not the same thing.
Right. And people are always surprised I work in healthcare because I'm not always the most detail oriented. But once I get in my field, I am there. I can sit and quote you all day on some details because that's what I
Hmm.
love. It's what I do. Get me somewhere where I hate it and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree, and I think that's the thing with a lot of people, is that once you put these individuals in at something that they excel at or they're very interested in, watch them go, man. Like they just take off, and it's great to see, like, and you love seeing that for them when they start really just blossoming, because their personality really comes through. And I think a lot of people label them as weird and things like that. I'm like, they're not weird, they're just different than you. That's all it is. Everything's weird nowadays. It's like, oh, well, that's weird. No, no, they're just
No,
individuals.
that's,
They just think at a different level than we do. And a lot, like I said, most of them are probably smarter than most of us, honestly.
and honestly, what needs to happen among therapists, among teachers, is the paradigm needs to shift again, because now you need to play to their strengths. You can't teach them to mask. That's done.
Hmm.
We because now you've got parents figuring out, oh, I'm autistic. I'm autistic too. You got parents figuring out they're autistic. So I did a speech right before my podcast really took off to a bunch of students I went to, at my alma mater, and they're just sitting there bored, and they're first year students, and they all want to do peds, and I'm like, all right, don't take notes. But when you get out of school and you want to do these peds, you're going to encounter these autistic parents with a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to want results because they already know what works now doesn't work. They want to know, what are you going to do for my kid when school is done? And I need
Exactly.
them to transition, and you're not going to have answers. I'm like,
No,
you're already
you're right.
far behind.
So, April, let me ask you a question though. What started your podcast? Like, what was that defining moment where you're like, you know what, I can help other people? And you, like you said, you were late diagnosed with autism. So, was this during your podcast you found out you had autism, or was this before it?
No, it was when I was doing my podcast, because my son
Oh,
had
okay.
failed out of two colleges, and he crashed and burned badly. And the only reason I sent him to certain colleges was because they were in state. One of them had an OT program, and I thought, okay, they have an OT program, he'll be fine. Crash burn. It was the most. He was so traumatized from that experience. And then when he went to another college, they had an autism program, but you have to test into it, and it costs as much as the tuition to go for that program. I was like, who can afford that? So
Exactly.
I was like looking for something to help my kid transition into adulthood, a coaching something, and there was nothing here in Kentucky. There was absolutely nothing. And I was like, my kid was $10,000 in debt with nothing to help him transition into adulthood. And I knew my background was geriatrics. And I was like, this is some bullshit. And I was like,
It is.
no OT is going to do this? Okay, fine, I'll do it. I don't even know how to start a podcast. And then my fiance is like, well, here's Mike. Threw it at me, and here we go.
For a lot of us, that's what it is too. Like, I didn't know how to. I think this is my almost my first year. I did one prior to this one I did with the friends. I was just joking around for a bit, but then I got serious when we hit a men's mental health episode, and that's where it started time and defining the turn where I was like, you know what, maybe we need to talk about this stuff more, because when I did my research, I was like, like who else is out there talking about this? All these doctors. Like, but where are the regular people out here just having a conversation with people? And it's the same thing with me too. As I was like going through this thing, I've been learning new things about myself. As I interview all these different people and things like that too. Which is great when I heard you say that though, because it's like, I bet you met that one person that told you something you didn't know about yourself. And I had that moment early on when I first started doing interviews with Dr. Tim Blake. He had came on. He's like, "Hey, Pete, let me ask you a question," and he just like narrowed it down to the point. I was like, "Dr. Tim, are you reading my mind at this point, man?" He's like, "No, I've just been doing this so long, I can tell exactly based on certain things you're saying and the way that you conduct yourself, and the way you make people feel. All kind, you make try to make everybody feel included. I could tell that you were abandoned." I was like, dude, it was so surreal, because it's like, he was just telling things about myself that I haven't told anybody when I started the show, and I was just like, this is so cool to see. And I got even more fascinated, so I just kept expanding my horizon of different people to come on the show, and more people just keep inviting more different people to come, because I'm like, I can't get enough of it. And it doesn't even feel like a job. It's just like, it's just great, because a lot of the people I run into, I still talk to today. Like, I still have conversations daily with a lot of my guests that were on the show too. So
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Because what I want from my podcast is not just a podcast. I want to create a movement of
exactly.
neurodivergent voices, so they have somewhere. that they know they can go to get answers.
Yeah.
And I didn't see an OT doing it. I was like, well, fine. I'll just do it. I don't even like talking, but okay.
And you're like, I don't like talking to people either. I don't like people either. I'm like, I tell people that too all the time. I'm like, I don't like people. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, but I podcast. And like, wait, what did you just say? I was like, yeah, I run a podcast, and they're like, oh, what is it about? And then when you tell people, I love the look on their faces when you tell them what your topic is. They're like, oh, really? It's great because a lot of people are supportive, and then you get those one people, they're just like, okay, yeah, I didn't know this is a conversational piece. Well, yeah, it is. We got to talk about
Right.
these things. Why not?
Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, so is it adulting with autism? Is it like vlog?" No, it's a whole conversation of we have some young adults out here. 80% of these people don't work. We had a whole ass politician say none of us will ever pay bills or have families. Well, I would like my taxes back if that's the case. So we can fix this. It's not just a national issue; it's a global issue.
Hmm.
So
No, I agree. I think what you're doing is great. I think what you're making a push the same thing I'm doing, pushing for people to talk about their mental health more because we mention it. It's great. Hey, listen, school shooting happens. Okay, well, that was mental health. So what are we gonna do about it? Well, we're gonna shove it under the rug and just kind of worry about it later. Like, well, why? But
but
why?
why?
Think about the base of most addictions is because a lot of people are self-medicating, and things like that too.
Mhm.
It's like, it's a problem. Like California was a pretty interesting situation, with their whole, oh, well, you can come to these stations and do drugs there. But what are you doing? Like, why are you keep encouraging
Why?
them to
Why
do
are they
more?
doing
Stop
the
these people.
drugs? Exactly. Why are
You know what I'm
they
saying?
doing the
Like, yeah,
drugs?
actually, listen. But you know what I'm saying? Like we're forcing that conversation in our own respective field areas. Like you're pushing autism, I'm pushing mental health, and I'm just like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, why don't we talk about these things more? Like we have all these doctors out here with these great podcasts and things, but like the regular people, we need a place to talk to, and then that's what I offer for people to come. I can, like I said, and and things, and it's just like it boggles my mind a bit because it's like we know it's an issue, but then we keep shoveling it under the rug, and it's like, why do we keep doing that? Because nobody wants to face the actual issues of like how many things are actually out there. We solve a lot of these problems, we wouldn't have a lot of these issues that we have now. Or we better educate these people like you're doing, and then we could better help these individuals succeed and be more successful and not feel like they're outcasts in the world.
Right. And they're not. They are so smart, and you just have to
Hmm.
play to their strengths. I'm
Exactly.
like, not everybody's going to learn the same, and not everybody's going to mature the same. Quit shaming their parents. Stop it.
Yeah. Well, I want to touch on something you just said. That everybody learns differently. We already knew that, though. Think about it, because remember, when we were in school, it was, oh, we had three different types of way people communicate. Some people are verbal, some are nonverbal. It's like we knew that. So then, why don't we apply it to these guys here, though? Like let's help them succeed. Like I just don't get it. Like maybe we're just too smart for this conversation, and we're just like we get it, but other
It's
people don't understand it.
This is what I always told my son: follow the money.
Hmm.
If the money doesn't make sense, then you know something is wrong. Because unfortunately, when it comes to public schools, they only are allowed public schools so much money. Every
Yeah.
state runs everything different. Then when you get to every state, every county runs it different. And I'm
Hmm.
like, so that makes no sense because then you have one county that has a lot of money in the school system that can do these wonderful things. But then here you have another county, no money in a rural area, and you're going to leave them out. And stuff always, and it always does. It seems like the coasts get the best research and it funnels in.
Yeah.
And by the time the top research funnels in the middle, it's already behind.
Yeah.
And then,
Isn't it- That's scary.
but then it's even scarier because the United States is behind globally in research. So there's that. I'm just saying.
I love how you do it. You're like, I'm just saying, hey, light bulb moment. We're behind everybody else. In case you didn't catch on to that,
And I
and
love my And I do love my field, occupational therapy, but I'm just saying, how long did it take for my field to make geriatrics a part of the life arc.
Yeah.
We're still very Pete's heavy in things like cerebral palsy, autism. It's a life arc. Do we have that in our curriculum yet?
No.
Absolutely not. I just talked with another one.
But you like I
And
said though, like but you made a good point there though. Like we know it's a problem, we just don't choose to fix anything about it. But it's like it's because these quote unquote politicians we have. It's like instead of making them work for us, we're letting them do whatever they want to do. And I know it's kind of I don't get political. I'm not trying to. I'm just stating the fact as it is because it's always noted that mental health shows up and then it's like everybody gets quiet. Like it's like somebody went in a room, made a racist comment to a group of whatever gender group you want to pick, and then it was like everybody got quiet because they're like, oh my God, he said that, kind of thing. And it's like it shouldn't be like that though. It's like we need to do better for our people too. We need to start helping these other people that may be different than everybody else, succeed in life and stop, stop the I'm trying to think what to say now at this point. Damn, I can't think of what I'm trying to think. But you know what I mean? It's just like I just don't get it. Like, it's like but I love what you're doing though, April. I gotta be honest with you. I really do. I love the fact that you're pushing for these individuals to have that space to come and at least, help people because a lot of people don't know where to go. And now I can use your show as a resource. Hey, listen, I got a friend named April. She runs this podcast, check it out. Let me know what you think. She's great. Hey, it's great advice, things like that too. And the other term I get to is met a Dr. Kristen Williams. She calls it neurospicy. I thought that was interesting too, because she
I love her.
she's I don't know if you have the honor of having her yet, but she was awesome.
I did. I sent her a t-shirt. She's got a t-shirt.
I love her. She's great. She's great. I love Dr. Kristen. She's great. She's actually going to be back because she wrote a book, so she's coming back to talk about her book and everything too. But when I met her, she was probably the most interesting individual of all because the way she was just like talking about it and the things. And I was like, I love it. I love like the language too. I love calling it neurospicy. And people just look at me weird when I say it. I'm like, yeah, he's just neurospicy, and they're just like, what does that mean? I'm like, oh yeah, this is a new thing I learned from a friend of mine. She refers to it as neurospicy, and they're just like, oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought people
it's
was looking at you weird.
like a lot of people probably listen to my podcast and they're like, she messes up and half edits. Yeah, because that's just how I function. If you look at my YouTube, you're gonna see all my face. You see my face. Sometimes it's flat, sometimes it's not. That's just who I am. I'm not gonna put on a performance for you. If my face looks flat, I'm not gonna sit there and smile and do this. No, I'm
Like
autistic, so if my face looks flat,
but I love how you said like you're keeping it authentic though. Think about it because you're like, oh, I have to edit things. Like, okay, well, I'd rather be real than fake. Honestly, like if and that was the one thing that got preached to me when I got into this field was like, be authentic because people could read through that. A lot of people can. And I feel like, a lot of people are like, oh, we have to edit everything. I'm like, but no, I think that's the fun part of it. It's like when you have those little goofs, you can laugh at yourself a bit because you're like, oh, that was hilarious. Different fun moments you have as you go, and things like that too, and then at the same time, like when we get into a serious conversation, like, with it being Suicide Awareness Month, I had done an episode with another woman and she didn't like part of some of the conversation where something got said and I was like, cool, we're gonna remove it right away. Like I don't have a problem removing that. Like if it's not a 50-50 thing or you're not feeling it, I'm okay with it. I'll take it out, listen to
right?
it, tell you if it works or not. And it did. I pulled the part out and we were both happy with it, and things like that too. So, but since we have the one, the only April on here, April, can you give some people advice? Like what if they run into somebody that is autistic? Can you give them some advice, like better ways for them to approach somebody so they don't make them feel like a different person?
So one piece of advice is if you met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, and you can always say, how 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 can I help you?
Hmm.
What can I do to make things better for you? There That's it. How can I help you? They will tell you straight up.
Yeah. Yeah,
They can
I think you're right.
advocate for themselves.
And you know what? And you make them feel like a normal person too. You don't make them feel different. You're just like, hey, listen, what's the best way to approach you to help you succeed? And I learned that early on too, because I was asking Dr. Kristen what I could do, because I had an individual like that, and I was asking for some advice, and I was like, and that's what I kept getting was a lot of people were saying, just ask him. I'm like, all right, cool, because I'm very, very careful when it comes to that. Even if people that are transgender and things like that too, that different have different like different, whatever their pronouns they would like. I'm very, very, like respectful. I'm like, so when I approached him, I was like, listen, man, hey, listen, what's the best way to do it? And I think, letting them tell you what to do makes them feel empowered because then you're not treating them as if they don't have an opinion or, because everybody doesn't learn the same way. I think that's the greatest point of all is that, you can teach people the same thing, but it doesn't always work that way because some people are more hands-on, some people are nonverbal, and things like that too, and then when they succeed, man, I cheer him on every time he did something great. I was like amping it up. I was like, dude, this is awesome. He just looked at me kind of weird at times. He's like, oh, this man, I just want to let you know you're doing great, man. And he was doing the smallest things. I just want to make sure he knew that, hey, listen, man, you're getting this. I like it. And I kept hyping him up and things like that too, and he loved it. We had a great time, like, and then when he started opening up, his personality came through, and it was just great, like making jokes to me and things like that. And some people didn't get the jokes, which is okay. I was like, all right, you're just not, it's not for you. Pick your audience. You're just not his audience. Sorry. We had our own little inside jokes and things like that too. So it was really great, because everybody was like, oh, and like they when they describe him to like the weird kid, I'm like, you mean oh so and so? Like I give it a name instant, like we're not gonna call him weird. He's not weird. He's just this person's name. You know what I mean? Just insert their name. That's who they are. Don't call him weird. That's not cool. And if anybody disrespects him and
No,
things like that too, it would definitely be something cut off. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. You're not gonna make fun of this poor kid just because you don't like what you see on the exterior. He's a nice young gentleman, So don't do that to him. Don't make him feel like he's an alien of any sorts or any of those kind of weird term. Anything you want to call him, you're gonna call him by his name, and that's it.
right. And that's it. Just like my son is having a rough start at Marshall, and I'm like, just get in your teachers' faces. They prefer you be in their face trying to learn the material versus just sitting back there doing nothing. And
Yeah,
it shows
yeah.
you're trying. And I'm like, let
So
them know you have autism.
well, congratulations on him getting in Marshall. That's awesome, though. That's so cool, though. How's he liking it, though? Other than that, is he enjoying the campus life?
Well, he enjoys being on his own, being on campus. He feels like he's in a class where it's only juniors and seniors typically. He's
Yeah,
like, "Mom, I feel like I'm so behind." I'm like, "Sometimes you're given a challenge for a reason." And
exactly.
he's like, "Well, maybe I should just drop this class." But he actually ran into the dean who said, "Just talk to your teacher." I was like, "Do you understand that most people don't meet the dean of their college until they're like way down into their program? So you're there for a reason." And his teacher's like, "Hey, I'll help you out." So I'm like, "You're there for a reason." So he's like, "Okay, I can do this."
He-
I was like,
He's over there. He's trailblazing. We're gonna say he's trailblazing. That's what he's doing over there. He's
"Yeah,
trailblazing. But it's
that's
so
what
cool.
you do."
What class is he think? What class is he taking that he was having trouble with?
It's an AutoCAD class. It's called CIT 260. It looks like an
Okay.
AutoCAD. And he's like, "Mom, I'm not quite sure how to do this." I'm like, "Well, you're talking barking up the wrong tree. I do healthcare. Ask ChatGPT to help you." He's like, "ChatGPT doesn't know either." I was like, well, you better ask your teacher because I don't know either."
Exactly. That's what they're there for. Like, use your resource you have. Like, they're sitting right there. They're glad. They want you to ask questions. Now they may
Yeah.
seem like they're annoyed, but they want you to learn because that's their work. When you succeed,
Yeah.
they succeed because it means that they're teaching you exactly what you need to know. And that was the same thing when I started podcasting like that. I was like, I don't know what to do. I had ChatGPT was my friend at that point. I mean, we were like Batman and Robin. But that's so awesome to hear, though. He's liking it, though. He's doing good. Because that just proves yet again that even because you're different than somebody else doesn't mean you can't do it, though. That hats off to him. I'm excited for him, though. Is he thinking about architecture as a career?
This kid, he was computer science with that emphasis on video game design. So that's what he wants to do.
Okay. Well, hey,
And
listen,
then
more power to him.
yeah, he signed up to be a foreign exchange student. So hopefully he can go this summer.
Oh. Where's he trying to go?
Seoul, Korea.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, good place to be. Yeah, a lot of the games get made there though. There, Japan, and all those other places over there because they're so tech forward for everything too. You
Yeah,
know, and I hope he gets to go, man. It's going to be an awesome experience. I'd love to go to Korea. That'd be great though, just because you see a lot of these people that are over there and all the different. It's so different though, and maybe he'll like it. You never know.
very.
I had a friend in high school. He was big into samurais and things like that too, and people looked at him weird all the time. I was like, that's just George, man. That's just who he is. That's my buddy George over there, and he loved it. He was so fascinated. He was learning how to speak Japanese and things like that too. And he had all these nuggets of truth about these things, and it was so great to see him because he was like, I was like, George, what'd you learn today, man? And he's like, oh, listen, I'll tell you about it. And he just start listing these things out, and it's so interesting to see how deep he got into it because he loved it. So, he's gonna love it, especially video games. Hats off to him, man. I love it. Like, listen, I'm able to play something he
Listen,
makes one day. That'd be awesome.
my goal is to get to Seoul, Korea by 50. So that's my goal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. That's on my bucket list there, and Japan would be great to go back to. I want to go check. I want to go back in because it's just great. Like the sights, the sounds, the way things are different. There's
Hmm.
and I tell people all the time, I just want to go to the 7-Elevens, and everybody laughs at me. It's like I watch all these videos on YouTube, and then these people showing to the 7-Elevens. I'm like, yeah, I'm jealous already, man. That's Pete's big excitement. It's like I just want to go to 7-Eleven in a different country and see what they offer and things like that. So, April, you have any exciting guests coming up on the show that we should know about? Any big names?
Um, let's see. Listen, I have so many guests lined up. I'm already pre-recording all the way up until November.
I was about
I've
to say
gone
that's
I've gone
awesome.
from I've gone from 2 times a week now to three. That's how many
Yeah.
guests I have. So stay tuned. Some of my guests though are pretty awesome. We're getting now. Some people are like, "This is a lot of woo, April." I'm like, "Listen, you can't always be just one way." So, if you believe in changing your mindset, like a lot of Eastern philosophy comes flowing into my podcast as well for finances and sleep and regulating your nervous system.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's good too. That's good too. Yeah, see, I'm recording up to December, but I'm doing like multiple during the day, so I'm bulk recording a lot of them. So content wise, I'd have to look at where I'm at. Honestly, I've already started October 2nd, where my next season starts. So I pushed out of a season 1. So this episode will show up in October though. But I set up the format differently to drop because I was doing live episodes, but then it was just too much for me to do. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to change the format for season 2. We're going to change this thing up. We're going to mix it up, And I've had a couple people on there. People are just like, okay, that's great, Pete. Like I had Dr. Jen Bellinger. She's actually an expert in BPD come on the show. She actually was one of the first videos I started watching when I started doing research for when I was starting to do the podcast. I was looking up different things and somebody had mentioned BPD. And the first time I heard it, I was like, what is that? I was curious. And the girl was explaining it to me. It's like, oh, well, I want to know some more about this. So lo and behold, the first YouTube video I saw, there she was right there in front of me. And then she came and I caught her on TikTok and I was just like, I pitched her the show. I was like, hey, listen, Dr. Jen, would you be interested in being on my mental health podcast? And she saw it and goes, looks right at, because you can see her on the screen and she's looking and her eyes are following that comment going, yeah, I'll do it. I'm like, oh God, she said yes. Because me and my wife had joked in the beginning. We were like, yeah, hey, listen, what if she said yes to be on your show? I was like, dude, I'd fucking die right now on the floor,
Mm,
But then she came and she was so fucking cool though. It's like she was the same exact person, and it was just like, I think that what is it that don't meet your heroes thing is kind of like a little overplayed
right.
because it's like it. How did you meet your hero? Did you approach him in the wrong way? You know what I mean? Like Dr. Jen came on and she was
Exactly.
so cool. She was so flattered by the fact of how excited I was for her to be there. And she was like, "Oh, you're so sweet, and you're doing great things." And I'm just like, "Oh my God, she just told me I'm doing great things." And like, it's like fangirling, and people are just like, "What are you so excited about?" I'm like, "Never mind, you just don't get it." But it's been exciting though because like some of the other top guests I've had Hilly Russo, host of Hilariously Speaking, come on, and she was so cool too. Like, all these different people I meet are just so cool along the way, and I've got to meet some rock stars along the way too, and then all these other people, and I'm still like I said, I still talk to a lot of them outside of here all the time, and everything like that too. So it's great because you make some new friends along the way, and the different people you find you have the same interests with. And then, you can just flex on them, like, yeah, by the way, that's my friend over there, and they're just like laughing at you because you're so excited to tell people about it.
That's what's awesome. Like, I talk to so many people around the globe, and it's awesome. And there's such professionals in their field. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Seeing, like I said, like you had Dr. Vijay on. Oh my god, I loved her. She was so cool. She was so cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like Dr. Vijay was right there in my top 5 people that didn't know I wanted on my show, but I had him on there. Like when I met her, she came on and she was so cool, had so knowledgeable, but at the same time, she didn't make you feel like you were less of a person because she was
Right.
just so level. I loved it about her. She was great. I think the most interesting guest I've had to date was the one that was the FBI sleep expert. She came on and we were talking beforehand. She was like, well, we can't talk about that entity. I was like, yeah, no, I figured that. I figured we'll touch on it for a second and we're going to jump away from that because but it was so cool to see because it's like, but when we got off air, we were talking about what she actually does and things like that too, and she gave me a little more what she could tell me, but it was so cool to see. It's like, wait, what are you doing? It's like, and she's studying people's sleep and things like that too. And it's like, people don't think about it, but sleep is very important to most people, and all that other kind of great stuff too.
Yeah, like my favorite guests were like Dr. Robert Melillo, who did all the brain balance um, buildings here nationally for kids. And now he's doing a whole new, I mean, when I interviewed him, I was like, he's like one of those OT moments. And I was like, I should have brushed up on my neurology on the brain when I interviewed him. And then Saul Smith and Dr. Matt Zarinsky, all these people and their autism and ADHD and neurodiversity, people I would have never knew were in this field if I didn't get into podcasting.
That's the same thing I tell people too. I'm like, I would, if I would have told you where I would have been in a year from now, that I've done as many episodes I've done this year. Like I've done well over 150 plus episodes in the first year, which is more than most podcasters do in 2 years. And the
Right.
people I would have got to meet and the things that would have happened. Like we had an oh shit moment at the beginning of the year. One of my guests was telling anybody suicidal ideation, and he was like, you could tell something was wrong when you first met him, like there's something wrong, like, and he just wasn't sure. And then he started going into it, talking about how he lost his friend to suicide, and I was like, okay, all right. I'm like, this kind of hinted at what he was about to say next, because he was like, hey Pete, can I tell you something? It's like, yeah, man, why not? And he just started talking about it, and I was just like, I think inside I was freaking out because I'm like, oh God, we're gonna get canceled. YouTube's gonna kick us off. At the same time, it was so interesting to see because it shook a lot of people because people just weren't ready for that conversation when he started talking about it. Like they were having mass panics, like they thought Godzilla was crushing Tokyo again. Man, they're freaking out, going, oh God, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, he's okay because he's talking to you. At least be glad he's at least saying something to you because
And these are
like,
real conversations
mm-hmm,
that people
mm-hmm.
need to have and understand.
With it being Suicide Awareness Month, April, um, do you have any advice for anybody that may be feeling that way? I know 988 is a great resource. A lot of people are just scared to have the conversation with people.
Listen, I always tell my son, like, people are like, you taught your kid this? I was like, yes. And if you have kids, be honest with them. Ask them, ask your friends. Say, if they're feeling sad, say, are you thinking about harming yourself? And if they say yes, ask them if they're having a plan. You need to ask. They're calling out for help. And I know it's a scary conversation. And I have had this with my own son, this conversation when he was in his teenage years, because hormones go up and down, especially with autism. They get, especially when they've been bullied, have the conversation. You
Listen,
already know.
yeah, yeah. Listen, if anybody bullies him, you let me know. I'll go bully them. Okay, I got him. I'll beat him up for him. I got him. You just call me. I'll come in there and handle it. But no, I agree. I
He's
think that I think that's a great thing to ask questions. I think that the end result that people get scared because they're like, oh my God, what if they think I'm doing something, And it's like, you know, I think you're worried too much about that. You need to worry about if they do have that plan, because if they're planning something,
Mhm.
then that's where you need to get them some help right away. And and things like
Yes.
that too. Like they said, that's why 988 is there too for that reason. You call them, get them on the phone, and be like, listen, hey, this is person trained person with them. Now, don't abandon them. I think that's the other thing people tend to do. A lot of times they
Yeah,
freak out.
don't
Just no, you're right. Go,
don't
go ahead. Tell them, April. Tell them. Don't abandon them.
don't abandon them. It I promise you, like if you have anxiety, because it's going to kick your anxiety way, way, way up because you're not going to know what to do, what to say. Just stay with them. Just keep them talking. Ask them if they have a plan and ask for backup. Just stay with them and somebody will come.
See, see, just keep them talking. I think but like I said, that conversation comes up, people start freaking out, get scared, or they don't listen for the signs. Like people making jokes about death and too, like, oh, I'm thinking about killing myself, da 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 da, or Harry Carey is what I used to tell people. I'm gonna go commit Harry Carey, and things like that too. And the other thing too, people giving stuff away was a lot of times people just get like these little things that you don't realize are happening, or and it's the same time. It's like sometimes just ask them too. One of my guests said? She said just ask them like, hey, listen, are you considering suicide? Because a lot of times when you ask them that question, it'll send a shock to their system. They're like, whoa, wait a minute, am I really thinking about doing this? And
Yep.
it's such a rough conversation though. I mean, I know that's not fun to talk about, but I mean, you'd rather not lose that person, and especially we as males. I love how you're talking to your son already, because we don't need any more statistics, man. 80% is way too many to be losing, and things like that too. And it's just crazy. Even the beginning of this year, it was already 70-80% males that were death was suicide was the reason for death for a lot of them. And it's just like, God, dude, we need to stop, guys. We need to talk more. And that's the thing I'm out here advocating for too, is that people, the men, just need to talk. Like, we just need to talk to each other, man. Cut this, like, oh, you're too sissy to talk about your feelings kind of crap, and just have a conversation with somebody, and have a good resource list of people, like people you can call if you need help. I know I have that one friend. If I call him at 2 in the morning at his time, he knows exactly something's going wrong. He's answering that phone, or he's calling me back in a heartbeat. And if I don't pick up, it's a constant blowing up of like, yo, even I pocket down, he'll just keep calling me like, bro, everything good? You okay? What, dude, you're not answering the phone. What's up? Do I need to come flying down where you're at and come get you? Or do I need to fly out there and come see you and come visit you? Because, it's, a lot of times, like I said, I don't call people 2 in the morning for any other reason than that, unless I absolutely need
Right.
something.
Right. And if you feel like you
So
don't
April,
have anybody, get on Discord.
yeah, definitely that too. There's a lot of good groups out there too you can get a part of, and things like that as well, and things like that too. So, well, April, we're at the fun part of the conversation. So
Oh,
I'm going to ask you a question, okay? And I want your honest answer.
okay.
Don't lie to us now, okay? We don't like liars here, all right? If your mental health had a song, what would that song be?
Ow! Dynamite by BTS.
She's like, I got this one. Let's do it. It's interesting because that question actually was asked by my good friend Gretchen Shows. She actually runs the podcast, The Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. She came on, so I stole that one from her, hijacking it. And it's so great to get people's responses to it, because it's like, people are like, oh, wait, really? That's a great question. What would my song be? We had Welcome to the Jungle was one of them. I think the most interesting one to date was Susan Snow. Still, she said Rage Against the Machine. She was just like, I was like, Susan, okay, all right, I see where you're going with this, girl. Okay. All right, April. So my next question for you, and the question and the reason this whole podcast is this: if you could break this stigma about mental health, what would that be like? And it's like anything that just drives you absolutely nuts that you see on the internet. Like, guys, stop buying into this misinformation.
That there's something wrong with the person. Re- Mental health does not define the person beneath. We're all human.
Y'all hear that? Hear what she said? I hope y'all listening in the back. She's telling you the facts. So stop treating people like they're different. April, well, thank you so much for coming today. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you? Obviously, your podcast. But if they want to reach out directly, hey Rachel, or I'm sorry, hey April, Jesus, where am I at today? If you'd like to, if they want to be on the show or reach out, try and be on the show, what's the best way to reach you?
So get on my link tree and hit and look up Adulting with Autism. It has all my socials, my merch, podcast, how to get on my podcast. I'm on IMDb. So whatever that is,
I'm jealous. I need to be on IMDb.
listen. It's a whole process.
Oh, it's a whole
It's
process, I'm
finicky,
sure. But well,
but
April,
yeah.
I wanted to thank you so much for coming today and hanging out with us, and doing this interview. It was great. I'm glad I could have a little bit of your time. I'm so glad you came. I'm so happy what you're doing. I will definitely be checking it out too, just because I'm interested about learning new things anyways. So, and I'm definitely now I have a new resource to add to my toolkit. So I appreciate for what you're doing, and keep it going, man. Like don't let these people stop you. Keep having those open conversations with your son too. I love it. I think that you talking to him about his own mental health and things like that too is going to just benefit him later on in life.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. And as I wrap up this episode of Pete Friesen Society, guys, you know where to find me. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify, on all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do can save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete Friesen Anxiety saying out saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?